Midway through the semester, a teacher reminds the class to enjoy their last summer break. While the other girls chat about after-school plans, the popular girl Kyoko rejects all invitations. Her friend Yuki explains that another guy recently asked for Kyoko's number, but she turned him down, saying she'd rather someone come and ask her in person. As Kyoko stands to leave, her phone slips and falls to the floor. Miyamura, a quiet student with long hair and glasses, picks it up silently. Rumored to be a geek, maybe even an otaku, he returns the phone and walks away without a word. Unlike her friends, Kyoko hurries home to do chores and pick up her younger brother Soda from kindergarten, as her mother often works late. The next day, while Kyoko cleans, a stranger with piercings brings home Soda. He had fallen and was bleeding from the nose, and this stranger helped him. Relieved, Kyoko invites him inside for coffee to thank him. During their conversation, the stranger is surprised she manages everything alone, and then calls her by name. He introduces himself as Miyamura. Kyoko can't believe this handsome guy is the same quiet classmate she barely notices at school. The next day at school, Kyoko suddenly drags Miyamura to a secluded balcony and tells him Soda wants him to come again. Miyamura agrees and promises to bring a picture book. He admits he thought she'd avoid him after learning his secret. Kyoko dismisses the idea, saying she also hides her home life outside school. Miyamura, who rarely interacts with others, blushes at such a simple conversation. When Kyoko suggests styling his hair upwards, he refuses, explaining he deliberately keeps it simple to hide his piercings. Soon, this becomes their daily routine. Miyamura often visits their home, and Kyoko learns he's not obsessed with anything special. His family runs a cake shop, he pierced himself with a safety pin in middle school, and he's just an average student. Later, Kyoko sees a supermarket pamphlet advertising a sale on eggs ending the next day at 4 p.m. A committee meeting ruins her schedule, so she texts Miyamura to buy eggs for her. Realizing time is tight, Miyamura dashes from school, changing his look on the run, and jumps from the back gate past Yuki, who's confused. That evening, Kyoko invites him for dinner. Overwhelmed by the crowd of women shopping, Miyamura declares he'll never buy sale items again. He mentions he saw Yuki on the way, and hopes she didn't recognize him. Suddenly, Kyoko realizes she doesn't want to share him with anyone, and quickly says she doesn't want anyone else to see his other side. Miyamura calmly replies he also wants to keep her casual side just for himself, and adds that she looks cuter that way. Embarrassed, Kyoko smacks him. As summer approaches, Miyamura feels hot in his winter jacket. He had told Kyoko he has a large tattoo on his left side, which could get him expelled if seen. Luckily, swimming classes aren't mandatory. A classmate, Toro, spots them getting close. When Kyoko leaves, Toro approaches Miyamura and bluntly asks if they are dating. Miyamura quickly denies it, saying they aren't a couple. Understanding the situation, Miyamura correctly guesses Toro likes Kyoko and apologizes. Later in the locker room, Toro asks about Miyamura's heavy jacket. Pressured, Miyamura removes it, revealing his tattoo and piercings. He warns Toro to keep his secret, and Toro agrees, stunned. On the rooftop, Toro admits seeing them together bothers him, and asks if he can tell Kyoko about his feelings. Miyamura replies that it's entirely Kyoko's decision. Meanwhile, the boys ditch PE class, leaving Yuki stuck cleaning alone, furious. Realizing he's ruining Kyoko's reputation just by being around her, when Toru formally asks Kyoko to meet after school, Miyamura steps back and offers to pick up Soda from kindergarten so Toru can confess his feelings. Expecting their new relationship, Miyamura quietly prepares to leave Kyoko's life, wanting to stay out of their way. However, when Kyoko returns home, she drags Miyamura outside, furious. She angrily asks about his conversation with Toru and wants to know if he really believes they don't look good together and she's just pretending to be nice to him. Miyamura stands by his words, saying he's gloomy and boring, and that staying close to her will ruin Kyoko's reputation. Hurt and frustrated, Kyoko cries and slaps him again. She tells him to stop making decisions for her, and explains how much she values his presence, and how he helps save food from going to waste. She warns him harshly that if he ever stops coming, the consequences will be dire. As things settle down, Kyoko reveals she rejected Toru. While shopping together, Kyoko hears an anime theme song and absentmindedly starts humming along. Miyamura compliments her surprisingly nice voice, and Kyoko blushes and slaps him. She admits she only remembers the lyrics because her little brother Soda plays it on repeat, and realizes she doesn't really know any other songs besides that. Back home, Kyoko sees her mother has returned. Soda enthusiastically praises Miyamura in front of them, and Kyoko's mother asks what he's really like. Kyoko describes him as mysterious and lonely, but her mother just laughs and asks for his first name. Kyoko freezes in surprise, suddenly realizing she's always only called him by too shy to ask directly. She spends the entire next day at school, trying to learn his first name. During PE class, she peeks into the boys' locker room, hoping someone might say it out loud. Instead, she scares the boys, and her friend Yuki catches her in the act and scolds her. Later, Kyoko sees the list of students who made the top ranks on the notice board, but since Miyamura's grades are completely average, his name isn't there at all. When Toro comes to talk to her, Kyoko tries to ask him about Miyamura. However, just mentioning his name reminds Toro of his rejection, and he runs off crying. That evening, Kyoko's mother suggests inviting Miyamura over. Kyoko immediately agrees and thinks her mother will be the one to ask his name. The next day, when Miyamura arrives, Kyoko is out for an errand. Her mother takes the opportunity to thank him sincerely for taking care of her children. By the time Kyoko returns, her mother has deliberately gone to work, and Soda is happily eating cake from Miyamura's family shop. Miyamura says he was thrilled to be spoken to so respectfully by a grown-up. Then he asks Kyoko why she's acting so strange, especially peeking into the locker room. Kyoko gives up and admits the truth about the name confusion. Miyamura and Soda laugh at her for getting upset over such a small thing. Miyamura asks for a pen, writes Izumi on a scrap of paper, and hands it to her. When Kyoko hesitates to say his first name, she deflects by asking if he even knows hers. He calmly replies Kyoko, making her feel like a complete idiot. Shortly after, the student council president Sengoku and his members, Sakura and Remi, lean way too heavily on Kyoko for paperwork. Exhausted, Kyoko agrees to do it because the new members are struggling. Yuki gets angry that they're taking advantage of her, while Toro and Izumi mistakenly assume Kyoko is only helping because Sengoku is attractive and competent. Yuki clarifies that Remi is actually Sengoku's girlfriend and the council's figurehead, meaning Kyoko is just doing Remi's leftover work. Later, as Izumi leaves school, Remi accidentally bumps into him, causing a pile of council files to fall. They gather the papers, but Remi hurriedly tells him to just throw away the last remaining sheet. Izumi looks at it, realizes it's an important budget report, and keeps it. The next morning, a crowd gathers outside Kyoko's class. Sengoku demands the missing budget report, and Remi refuses to accept it ever arrived. When Sengoku accuses Kyoko of negligence and demands an apology, Kyoko, utterly exhausted, cannot clearly remember everything and looks close to tears. Toru and Yuki try defending her over work, but the crowd sides with the popular president. Izumi steps forward, hands his bag and glasses to Toru, and directly headbutts Sengoku. As the crowd goes silent, Izumi pulls out the missing budget report and explains Remi told him to throw it away. Remi realizes her mistake and loses confidence. Embarrassed, the council members apologize to Kyoko for the chaotic accusation. When Toru asks Izumi why he headbutted him if he already had the paper, curious, Izumi asks Kyoko why she listens to Sengoku so quickly. She explains they're childhood friends, but she used to bully him a lot. Before high school, Sengoku threatened to reveal her angry past if she didn't start treating him with respect, so she felt forced to listen to him. The next day, a terrified Sengoku bows and calls Izumi sir. Later, while playing table tennis, Toru and Izumi discuss Kyoko's upcoming birthday on the 25th during spring break, and Izumi starts stressing over the perfect gift. During dinner, Soda asks Kyoko if Izumi will keep visiting or eventually stop coming. Kyoko realizes she doesn't know the answer and suddenly feels sad. When her birthday finally arrives, which also marks the start of their final school year, Soda gives her a handmade card. Izumi gives her a CD filled with songs. Kyoko is thrilled, as is exactly the thoughtful gift she wanted. As a child, Izumi felt completely isolated. He was the kind of student who was always picked last for group projects, and even his teachers would intentionally keep him separate from others, making him feel like no one liked him. To cope with the intense loneliness and the whispers, he started piercing his ears as a symbol of his pain. This isolation continued into high school until one day while working on a report, Kyoko treated him like a normal person, disproving the rumors that he was some sad loner. Now entering his third year, Izumi discovers he's in the same class as Kyoko, Toro, and Yuki. When the teacher announces a four-person group project, Izumi assumes he'll be left out, but instead, Kyoko, Toro, and Yuki immediately gather around his desk, dispelling all the doubts in his mind that he's part of the group. During lunch break, Izumi heads to the rooftop where Toro finds him. Izumi asks what Toro really thinks of him. Toro bluntly admits he dislikes him and says he doesn't like how Izumi speaks slowly and is so close to Kyoko. However, Toro also admits that Izumi is too good to ignore, joking that his long hair and face often make him more attractive than girls. Then Toro asks why Izumi still calls him by his family name. Izumi hesitantly tries to use Toro's first name, but quickly gets embarrassed, admitting he hasn't called any classmate by their first name since the start of high school. Toro laughs and calls him weird, but assures him they're good friends, which makes Izumi wonder how surprised his lonely past self would be to see this. Since Kyoko's little brother Soda has started school and leaves early, Kyoko has been getting to high school first, ahead of her friends. One morning, before assembly, a student council member Rimi approaches her. Getting overly friendly, Rimi asks asks if Kyoko and Izumi like each other. When Kyoko denies it, Remi smirks suspiciously and teases that she'll just make Izumi hers then. She says since they're just friends, Kyoko has no right to stop her. The thought of those two together sends Kyoko over the edge. She suddenly stands up and yells that she'll never let her take him away. After storming off, Kyoko spends the whole day regretting her reaction, realizing Izumi isn't something she owns. That afternoon, Izumi visits Kyoko's house. Since Soda is playing outside, they spend the afternoon alone. They watch horror movies, revealing Izumi is a scaredy cat who jumps at phone rings. Suddenly, the power goes out and Izumi panics, but Kyoko reassures him it'll return soon. When it does, Izumi feels embarrassed and Kyoko teases him, threatening to make him watch 5 more movies. To change the subject, Izumi mentions Yuki recently compared her hands with Kyoko's, and Toro said that, even compared to a guy's hand, Kyoko's are tiny. Izumi and Kyoko compare hands. Kyoko musters courage and holds his hand, and suddenly blurts out, "I love you," but quickly recovers, saying she loves his hands. Izumi gently replies he loves her too, and he also loves her hands. Then Soda returns, and Kyoko invites Izumi to dinner. The next day at school, Remi tells Sakura that saying she would take Izumi was just a joke, but it clearly brought out Kyoko's true feelings. Toro overhears and spirals. That evening, Toro barges into Izumi's room, insisting Kyoko really likes him. Izumi stubbornly denies it, saying Toro's own feelings for Kyoko are clouding his judgment. Frustrated by Izumi's denial, Toro slams his hand on the table and punches him. Izumi snaps too, retaliates, and they start fighting. The next morning, Izumi arrives at school with a bruised face, admitting he fought with Toro. Kyoko can't believe Toro would fight his friends, until Toru himself shows up with an even worse face. Yuki immediately pulls Izumi aside, while Kyoko takes Toro for questioning. Toro admits he stood. Meanwhile, Izumi tells Yuki he's equally responsible for the fight because of his harsh words, and he tells her it all happened because of Kyoko, and he begs Yuki to keep it a secret. Later that day, Izumi approaches Toro, and the two sincerely apologize to each other, restoring their friendship. One afternoon, Sakura accidentally drops a pile of student council papers. Toru helps her pick them up and return them to the council room. He praises her for handling so much work, and Sakura blushes happily at the unexpected compliment. Later outside school, Toru runs into Izumi. Izumi offers him the ice cream Kyoko gave him earlier, since she has already gone home. When Toru sees it's melon-flavored, which he dislikes, his excitement fades. Coincidentally, student council president Sengoku passes by, so they force him to eat the ice cream instead. While chatting, Toru mentions Sengoku gathering girls in the council and taking over the air conditioner. Sengoku invites them to visit the council room anytime, an offer he regrets the next day when Toru and Izumi arrive with Kyoko and Yuki. To decide who buys drinks, the group plays rock, paper, scissors. Kyoko and Izumi lose, so they have to go together. After they leave, Remi asks about their relationship and says Kyoko would actually be better off with Toru. Toru's hope is briefly sparked, but Yuki reminds him he's already been rejected. Seeing his reaction, Sakura realizes he likes Kyoko. Since they're taking too long to get drinks, the group starts to overthink. Toru worries too much and convinces himself something is going on between them. Yuki, being sensible, suggests their coins might have fallen. Impressed by her optimism, Toru thanks her by running his hand through her hair, causing a blushing Sakura to look away. When Kyoko and Izumi return, Izumi hands Toru his drink and apologizes, saying he didn't want things to end like that. Misunderstanding that Izumi means something happened with Kyoko, Toru panics and turns away. Kyoko, confused, agrees and says things changed before she even realized it, and now it's too late. As Toru opens his drink in frustration, the drink Izumi spilled earlier splashes on his face. Everyone laughs, and Sakura quietly hands Toru a wet handkerchief. After school that evening, Izumi studies in Kyoko's warm house because their air conditioner is broken. Izumi says he's fine since he isn't wearing anything underneath, and then clarifies he meant his underwear. Kyoko blushes deeply and suddenly demands to see his tattoo again. When Izumi casually starts pulling off his clothes, Kyoko stops him, asking if he's always this careless. She admits she wants to know when he gets nervous, since she's always the one embarrassed. Izumi admits that when his middle school friend Koichi mistakenly thought Kyoko was his girlfriend, he panicked. Izumi promises to clear up the misunderstanding, but Kyoko stops him. Suddenly, Koichi sends a photo of himself with his girlfriend and suggests a double date. Panicked, Izumi immediately hides his phone, tells Kyoko not to look, deletes the message, and angrily calls Koichi. Seeing his unusual anger, Kyoko realizes there's a lot she wants to know about him. A few days later, Toru and Izumi spot Kyoko talking to Koichi on the street. Izumi immediately runs over and stops him from saying anything wrong. Koichi suggests they go to an air-conditioned restaurant. On the way, Izumi recalls how Koichi became his friend in middle school, even though he initially mispronounced his name. Koichi defended Izumi against classmates who insulted him, giving Izumi some good memories of those years. The next morning, Kyoko wakes up with a high fever. Since she's used to being alone when sick due to her mother's work schedule, she stubbornly tries to go to school. Sota takes her back to bed and firmly tells her to rest. Half asleep, Kyoko opens her eyes to find Izumi sitting by her bed, having arrived after Sota's panic call. When Izumi gets up to fetch water, Kyoko panics and asks where he's going. Recalling the time she was left alone when she was sick, she holds his hand. Understanding her true fear, Izumi gently assures her he won't go anywhere until she tells him it's okay. Later, as Kyoko's fever drops and she appears to be sleeping, Izumi quietly tells her he called her mother, and the school was informed that she was sick. Just before leaving, he tells her he's loved her for a very long time, then mentions he left food in the fridge and says if she needs anything, she should message him. As he closes the door, Kyoko's eyes snap open. She heard everything, and her fever turns to surprise as she stares at the ceiling, wondering how she should react now. 2 days later, Kyoko's fever breaks, but she's so flustered by Izumi's unexpected confession that she still hesitates to return to school. That afternoon, Sota returns home with shocking news. He saw Izumi with a girl from another school. Kyoko drops her yogurt in shock, and her mind immediately spirals into worst-case scenarios, thinking the girl is one of his many girlfriends. Overthinking, she gets so tangled up in confusion that she can't even message him for clarification. The next day, when Kyoko finally returns to school, she hides everywhere to avoid Izumi. She quickly hushes Toru when he enthusiastically greets her, not wanting Izumi to see her. During break, Toru tells Izumi she was back, as he genuinely didn't know she returned. Izumi goes looking for her and catches her hiding near the school gate. He gets straight to the point, admitting he knew she was awake when he confessed, but lacked the courage to wait for her response. However, Kyoko completely ignores this and asks about the girl Sota saw him with. Flustered, Izumi hesitates before casually saying her name is Chika. Hearing him say a girl's first name, an intimate gesture in Japan, especially since he doesn't even call Kyoko by her first name, Kyoko becomes jealous and angry. Izumi quickly tries explaining that Chika is Koichi's girlfriend, and Sota must have seen the moment she got hurt, and Izumi was helping her. Kyoko listens for only 2 seconds before angrily throwing a book at him and yelling at him to stop casually saying Chika's name. Izumi says he doesn't even know Koichi's girlfriend's family name, but Kyoko throws another book and storms off. Later at home, Kyoko feels intense guilt, realizing Izumi might start hating her because of her behavior. Suddenly, Sota announces that Izumi has arrived. Kyoko panics and tells Sota to lie, but Izumi is already behind her, returning books for homework. They sit in awkward silence, both assuming the other is mad, then apologize at the same time. Kyoko apologizes for throwing books, and Izumi promises he'll only call Chika Koichi's girlfriend. Finally, Kyoko brings up his confession and admits she heard everything, and Izumi admits he got scared of her response. Suddenly, an unfamiliar man enters, asking who Izumi is, and teasingly asks if his earrings mean he smokes. Izumi nervously denies it, and Kyoko casually introduces the man as Kyosuke, her father who rarely visits. Kyoko slaps him to stop teasing. Kyosuke dramatically complains he returned to a house with an angry daughter, a missing wife, a strained. Kyoko sighs deeply and goes to cook. Kyosuke jokingly asks if Izumi is an only child, and declares only children can't meet his daughter, then laughs, saying he just wanted to say that old movie line once. Getting serious, he directly asks Kyoko if Izumi is her boyfriend. Silence fills the room until Kyoko confidently nods yes, causing Izumi to immediately blush. Kyosuke casually says he doesn't like boys with long hair, forgetting he has long hair himself. Izumi quickly offers to cut his hair, but Kyosuke suggests tying it back instead and asks Kyoko for a pin. As Kyosuke fiddles with Izumi's tied hair, he asks what Izumi likes about his daughter. Izumi honestly replies that she makes him feel loved. Just then, Kyoko's mother Yuriko enters and freezes in shock, not because her estranged husband is home, but because they prepared dinner only for Izumi, who has his own special plate. Later, Kyoko walks Izumi to the main road to see him off and apologizes for her father's behavior. On the quiet road, she reaches out and grabs Izumi's hand. Summoning courage, Izumi holds her hand too, and promises that while he doesn't know everything about her, he wants to learn little by little. Kyoko promises the same, officially starting their relationship. That night, Izumi calls Toru to share the news. Toru says he doesn't mind, but as he hangs up, tears fill his eyes, realizing he's officially lost Kyoko. The next day at school, Sakura spots a sad Toru hiding across the hall. Remi catches catches her staring and asks what's wrong. Feeling insecure, Sakura says a naturally beautiful girl like Remy could never understand her troubles, and before leaving, wishes she were as pretty. Sakura immediately regrets her harsh words, remembering Remy has always been her best, most supportive friend. She runs back to apologize and emotionally admits she likes Toru, fearing rejection because she's not as cute as Remy. Remy smiles warmly, saying it's the first time she's seen Sakura shy and finds her genuinely cute. While Toru is with Shu, Izumi walks with Kyoko and feels awkward when they run into Toru and Sengoku. Toru slaps Izumi's head and tells him to stop being weird. Later, while Izumi and Kyoko study together, Kyoko casually mentions her friend, Izumi is coming. Izumi mistakenly thinks she's finally calling him by his first name and blushes heavily. Seeing this, Kyoko deliberately tries calling him by his first name but completely fails and starts rambling. After Kyosuke returns home, Sota and Yuriko ask how long he plans to stay. When Izumi arrives, Kyosuke doesn't recognize him until Izumi removes his glasses. That night, Kyosuke forces Izumi to sleep in his room, teasingly suggesting Izumi probably wanted to sleep with Kyoko. Flustered, Izumi denies it. Kyosuke seriously asks what Izumi likes about his daughter. Izumi simply replies that Kyoko doesn't judge people by their appearance. This answer truly satisfies Kyosuke. The next morning, Izumi and Kyoko's family head to school like a family. Unfortunately, classmates spot Izumi and Kyoko exiting the same house. Rumors immediately spread that they're living together, and gossip centers around Kyoko choosing the quiet Izumi. Toru and Yuki get furious, and Yuki breaks down over the rumors. Izumi overhears and realizes Kyoko doesn't deserve such humiliation. The next day, he arrived at school with a completely new look. Clean, short hair, and no glasses. Suddenly, girls who once ignored him start giving him attention, and Kyoko angrily glares at them, driving them away. At home, Kyosuke also fails to recognize Izumi's new look. Koichi calls, saying he won a candy lottery and is standing outside with a gift. Kyoko heads outside after Izumi. Koichi laments that Izumi's old look is gone, then offers him candy. He explains his girlfriend Kika took all the good flavors, leaving only the bad ones. Izumi deliberately gives Koichi one he hates. Realizing Kyoko took one too, Izumi leans in and kisses Kyoko to transfer the candy from her mouth to his. He casually says it tastes bad and walks away, leaving Kyoko blushing. By the time Koichi looks back, the kiss is already over. The next day, a junior class girl keeps glaring at Izumi. She bluntly asks when he plans to break up with Kyoko, drawing a crowd. Izumi immediately replies that he never will. Instead of ignoring her, Kyoko turns around and faces her directly. The girl introduces herself as Honoka and explains she actually likes Kyoko, not Izumi. Honoka hugs Kyoko, and the situation quickly turns into an argument over who loves Kyoko more, Izumi or Honoka. Toru immediately calls Yuki to witness the bizarre scene. Another day, after learning Kyoko left early, Honoka follows Izumi. He asks why she's following him, but she insists she's just heading home. Soon they realize they're neighbors and stop at adjacent apartments. Honoka remembers she forgot her key and is locked out. Izumi lets her wait inside his apartment, where Honoka learns he lives with his parents and is an only child. Izumi notices Honoka staring at him like he's someone else. She briefly mentions having an older brother, but quickly changes the subject. When her mother arrives, Izumi tells Honoka she can come over anytime for cake. Later, Izumi's mother explains Honoka's older brother passed away a year ago, and Izumi becomes very sad. The next time they meet, Honoka is waiting to go to school with Kyoko. A group of older boys approaches and harasses Honoka, but Izumi steps in and glares at them silently. Realizing the danger, the boys run off. This incident cements the sibling-like bond between Izumi and Honoka, and they start arguing about Kyoko again. Later, Izumi, Kyoko, and Kyosuke watch a horror movie where a daughter throws a chair at her father. Both men hate these movies, but Kyosuke eventually leaves to buy cigarettes. Left alone, the atmosphere turns awkward. Kyoko thinks Izumi has never tried to get close to her, and silently hopes he'll take their relationship further. Summoning courage, Izumi leans in to kiss her. Just then, Kyosuke returns, having forgotten his money. Kyoko becomes so furious at his terrible timing that she grabs a chair and chases him like in the movie scene. A few days later, the group of friends stops at a bookstore. Toru, still feeling anxious, spots Kyoko and Izumi from afar. Yuki notices his anxiety and casually pulls him away to spend time with her. One day, Toru helps Yuki take out the trash. They share the same taste in movies, so Yuki invites him to buy something later. Toru senses Yuki's attention has shifted to him since Kyoko started dating Izumi. As they walk, Toru accidentally bumps into Sakura, spilling coffee on her. He apologizes and quickly fetches his jacket for her. After he leaves, Sakura nervously asks Yuki if they're dating. Yuki laughs and denies it, giving Sakura clear relief that her path is clear. Toro returns with his jacket, and Sakura lights up when she puts it on. Sakura heads back to the student council room and finds Sengoku alone. Still trying to understand his feelings, she asks what he likes about Remy, a surprisingly direct question from her. Sengoku explains that since he sees himself as weak, Remy makes him want to be brave and strong enough to protect her. In reality, Remy keeps him emotionally safe. Understanding this, Sakura decides to become braver. A few days later, she returns Toro's washed jacket and nervously gives him a pack of homemade cookies. Toro happily accepts and praises the flavors, especially one of them, which makes Sakura blush deeply at the compliment, and Toro tells her to bring more next time. After school, Yuki finally finds the last copy of what she wanted. However, when another girl reaches for it, Yuki silently hands it over, thinking the girl needs it more. A few days later, Kyoko notices Toro and Yuki aren't spending much time together. Yuki smiles and casually brushes it off, saying Toro is busy eating cookies. Kyoko realizes Yuki always keeps quiet about what she wants and smiles most when she's the saddest, which is why she always loses her favorite things. Later, Sakura gives Yuki the same cookies. Out of jealousy, Yuki initially wants to throw them away, but remembers Sakura made them to sincerely thank her. Feeling guilty, she eats them and admits they taste good. Determined, Yuki asks Izumi about baking. A week later, she brings her cupcakes to school, secretly hoping Toru doesn't see them. He inevitably spots them and takes a bite. He honestly tells her he'll be waiting for the next batch, and this encourages Yuki more than any fake compliment. A few days later, Kyoko is unusually sad because Izumi went to Hokkaido for a family matter. Upon arrival, Izumi texts Kyoko that he reached safely, but immediately realizes his phone battery is dying. He forgot his charger, and there is no way to replace it nearby. The next day, Kyoko mindlessly buys 2 drinks out of habit before remembering Izumi has left. Unaware of his battery issue, she checks her phone all week, growing unwell counting days without a single message. Finally, Izumi returns. He immediately charges his phone and finds a flood of messages, including a desperate one from Kyoko. He rushes out and runs to the elevator. When the ground floor doors open, Kyoko is there, having run to meet him. They hug tightly, agreeing the 5 days felt longer than out. Back at school, Kyoko asks her friends what Izumi dislikes. When she mentions horror movies, they say he probably watches them because Kyoko pressures him. They warn her that if she keeps acting like a horror-obsessed girl, Izumi might start stepping back. They advise her to act cuter and more emotionally dependent to make him feel needed. Taking this to heart, Kyoko tries to pretend to be scared during the next horror movie so Izumi can comfort her. The plan backfires completely as Izumi genuinely gets scared and runs to the bathroom to calm down. Alone in her bedroom, a sad Kyoko thinks she's ruined everything and that Izumi is drifting away. Hearing footsteps, Izumi approaches and finds her disappointed in bed. She admits she's sad because no matter how hard she tries, she can't act like a cute and sweet girlfriend. Izumi immediately reassures her, saying he loves her true self, not some ideal ordinary girl. Kyoko realizes the same applies to her. She loves Izumi exactly as he is. Outside, the heavy rain softens the mood. They share a tender moment behind closed doors, and finally, they take the romantic step they've circled around for so long. Later that night, Soda returns home. Looking sad, he expresses his fear that Izumi will eventually take Kyoko away from him. Izumi gently reassures the boy, promising it will never happen and they'll always be there for him. At night, Izumi has a vivid dream where he confronts his childhood self, the boy he used to be, lonely, hateful, and ready to end his meaningless life. Standing beside his past self, Izumi speaks comforting words, gently urging the boy to hold on a little longer because help is coming. He promises that in high school, he will make friends who truly want to be around him. And most importantly, he will meet a girl who will laugh, cry, and care about him more deeply than anyone ever has. The next morning, Izumi has tears streaming down his face, and he becomes deeply emotional over the stark contrast between his painful past and hopeful present. Meanwhile, the student council president Sengoku seems brave and cool, but his girlfriend Remy knows the truth behind his facade. She knows he doesn't like raising his voice to scold others, that he laughs off jokes about being unathletic, while secretly feeling frustrated, and he wishes to be relied upon even though he panics when alone. It's this strange and genuine side of Sengoku that made Remy fall for him. When they first met, other boys kept staring at Remy because of her beauty. However, Sengoku casually said she was fine, and she immediately became interested. Their bond deepened when Remy saw him studying in class. Talking about his favorite books, Sengoku mentioned his parents' large home library and invited her to see it. While looking at the shelves, Remy noticed a book titled A Day Before the World Ends, which strengthened their connection. Later, when Remy gave him another book to read, Sengoku hesitated and admitted one of his friends liked Remy. She simply ignored the awkwardness and asked to visit his home again. During this second visit, she asked Sengoku what he would do if he were the last person on Earth. Turning his back, he nervously expressed his feelings and disappeared. Initially thinking it was a joke, Remy approached, saw his flushed face, and realized his truth. She also admitted she liked him, and thus their relationship began. Sometime later, Izumi is resting in Kyoko's room while she carefully applies fresh nail polish to his toenails. Suddenly struck by a thought, Izumi gently places his foot on Kyoko's head to see how she feels about the strange things she does to him. He instantly panics and apologizes, but Kyoko is surprised and does not mind it. Seeing how soft he is compared to his outwardly tough demeanor, Kyoko casually admits she finds him more attractive when he's tougher and advises him to try yelling or acting angry. Taking her words a bit too seriously, Izumi arrives at school the next day, disguised as a toxic and dominating person. He aggressively tells Toru that they should beat everyone up and forcefully orders Sengoku to do his job properly while handing him a borrowed book. His friends are stunned, though Toru quickly guesses Kyoko is behind this bizarre change. The unnatural anger overwhelms Izumi so much that he starts crying. Still, he promises Kyoko one last attempt. Later, while alone filing papers in the physics room, Izumi sternly orders Kyoko to fix her attitude. Unfortunately, a group of girls enters at the same time. Frightened by the dangerous scene, the girls flee, and Izumi panics while Kyoko finds the thrill amusing. Meanwhile, Yuki is confused about what to do after being confessed to by a very beautiful student named Akane. After worrying for days, she decides to reject him without hurting his feelings. Izumi devises a plan where Toru pretends to be Yuki's boyfriend so Akane can easily be rejected. Toru agrees, and to make the act convincing, he holds Yuki's hand, which secretly makes Yuki happy as she actually likes him. While they wait behind the school, Kyoko and Izumi watch from a distance, and Akane approaches. Seeing Akane's flawless beauty and calm demeanor, Toru loses confidence and feels extremely inferior. Believing the fake relationship is real, Akane respectfully apologizes for the intrusion and leaves calmly. Kyoko asks in frustration why Yuki would reject such a handsome guy, but Yuki explains that she's afraid of perfect types and prefers ordinary boys. The next day, Yuki asks Remy about Akane and learns that despite his good looks, he's kind of funny and clumsy because of his poor eyesight without glasses. Wondering if he mistook her for someone else because of his poor eyesight, Yuki confronts him after school. Akane smiles and firmly states that he didn't make a mistake and has liked her sincerely for a long time. However, when Kyoko, Izumi, and Toru arrive to join the conversation, Akane's poor eyesight comically becomes apparent. Unable to see properly, he starts talking to the wrong people, mistaking Kyoko completely for Toru and turning the emotional moment into a comedic scene as he struggles to recognize anyone standing directly in front of him. Kyoko starts gently fixing Izumi's hair again. Unintentionally, this attracts attention from other girls, and a jealous Kyoko quickly pulls him away. On the way home, Izumi runs into Makio and another boy, his old classmates who used to bully him. When they start harassing him again, Kyoko gets angry and beats them up, forcing them to flee. Afterward, Kyoko feels a strange relief from releasing her anger. Meanwhile, injured Makio encounters Koichi. Makio says he hates Izumi, but Koichi reveals Makio is the one constantly mentioning Izumi. The next day, Izumi notices Kyoko's red hands and sincerely thanks her, expressing happiness that someone finally got angry for him. Another day, Kyoko suddenly gets a strange urge. She begs Izumi to treat her harshly, insisting a single slap will suffice. Koichi arrives and encourages Izumi to do exactly what his girlfriend wants, mistakenly thinking it's a romantic desire. Overwhelmed by Kyoko's emotional pressure, Izumi grabs her wrist harshly, speaks sternly, and pulls her away, while Koichi stands behind, confused. Then Kyoko stops at a store. Outside, Makio and his friends stand nearby. When Kyoko emerges, the terrified boys immediately pretend to be cleaning trash. Their fear intensifies when Izumi approaches, lightly smacks Kyoko's head, and pulls her away forcefully. Though the boys are terrified to see once quiet Izumi now hitting girls, Izumi himself is panicking internally over hitting his girlfriend. However, Kyoko is clearly very happy. Back home, Izumi takes Kyosuke to the bathroom to talk privately, and anxiously asks why Kyoko enjoys it when he treats her harshly or yells. Kyosuke simply explains that Kyoko likes seeing Izumi act completely opposite to his usual gentle nature. Soon Kyoko enters and scolds him for taking so long. Kyosuke scolds Kyoko for overwhelming Izumi in their usual bickering resumes. A few days later, Toru and Izumi encounter a classmate named Taiki. Toru greets him, but Taiki ignores them. Izumi explains that Taiki likes Kyoko and is probably upset with him because of that. Remembering he left his phone in the science lab, Izumi runs back and finds Taiki there. Despite the awkward atmosphere, Taiki helps by calling Izumi's number to locate the phone. They realize it isn't lost. It's in Izumi's back pocket. In his rush to retrieve it, Izumi accidentally drops the phone, and it breaks completely. Frustrated by his carelessness, nervousness, Taiki suddenly asks a piercing question. What is it about Izumi that makes Kyoko like him? Izumi calmly asks if Taiki could ever hit Kyoko or treat her harshly if needed. Taiki immediately denies it, saying he could never fight with her. Izumi quietly replies that Taiki could never handle her the way she needs. Just then, Kyoko arrives. Still acting rough, Izumi treats her harshly, shoves her slightly, and asks if she ever stays quiet. Surprised, Taiki notices Kyoko clearly enjoys the rough treatment. Realizing Izumi is a completely different person, Taiki apologizes for thinking he was weak, and Izumi tearfully thanks him. That night, Makio has a nightmare involving Izumi and the rabbits from back then. Sweating, Makio wakes and quickly gets Izumi's number from Koichi calling him. When Izumi doesn't answer, Makio feels ignored. The next evening, Makio visits Izumi's family. Izumi politely directs him to another open store. Makio insists he'll return tomorrow for the cake, and Izumi suggests he also buy a fruit tart. Makio agrees and raises two fingers like rabbit ears, a signal they both understand. Before leaving, Makio asks why his call was ignored. Izumi says his phone broke, and Makio instantly realizes he was the one who ignored Izumi for years. A flashback reveals Makio's deep guilt. In middle school, he forgot to feed the school's rabbits during summer break. When they died, he falsely blamed Izumi, who never defended himself or spoke ill of Makio. Makio has carried that guilt ever since. Meanwhile, Izumi helps Kyoko organize her bookcase and finds her middle school yearbook. Kyoko sternly warns him not to open it. She asks if he kept his yearbook. Izumi smiles faintly, admitting he almost threw it away because he had no memories worth keeping. However, showing his impressive personal growth, Izumi says his high school yearbook will be different because this time he has real memories he wants to keep, and he even talks about taking a photo with Taiki and maybe becoming friends with Makio. Kyoko becomes anxious seeing Izumi close to his old classmate Makio, who used to bully him. Fearful that another boy might take Izumi away from her, she angrily claims him. Makio hesitantly clarifies that he's not like Koichi. This reminds Kyoko of Koichi's constant presence. When Koichi arrives at the perfect moment, Kyoko questions him about his girlfriend Chika. Koichi explains Chika is busy studying, so he often stays at Izumi's place at night to play games. Kyoko begins to worry that they might be romantically involved. Before she can get angrier, a panicked Makio pulls Koichi away. Kyoko firmly tells Izumi she has no problem with his female friends, but forbids him from getting too close to boys, and demands that if he ever cheats, it should be with a girl. Izumi obediently warns Toru, Shu, and Sengoku to stay away. Meanwhile, Yuki is shopping with her older sister Miki when they encounter Akane. Miki is surprised to learn Yuki rejected such a handsome guy, and says things should have gone the other way. Akane quickly leaves to avoid misunderstanding with Toru. Even when Sakura directly asked her at school, Yuki lied, claiming she's dating Toru. Later, Yuki tells Remi to tell Sakura the truth, as she can't bring herself to do it. Remi refuses and says it's Yuki's responsibility. Yuki doesn't attend school for a whole week without telling anyone and turns off her phone. Toru tries to laugh it off, but Miki angrily questions Yuki's absence, revealing Kyoko called their home out of worry. Miki points out Yuki's old habit of silently wanting things but never saying anything and preferring to cry instead of trying to get what she wants. Back in her room, Yuki finally checks her messages. Her phone slips from her hand when she reads Toru's message. Sakura confessed her feelings for Toru. The following week, Yuki pretends to be happy returning to school. Toru takes her to the rooftop. Yuki assumes their fake relationship is over, but Toru explains Sakura didn't ask for a response because she still believes they're dating. She just needed to lighten her heart. Yuki asks why he didn't just tell her the truth. He says he wanted to keep his promise to be her fake boyfriend. When Yuki asks what he would have said otherwise, Toru admits he would have rejected Sakura anyway, believing she's too good for him and deserves someone better. Yuki feels selfish relief knowing Toru won't be with Sakura, making her the closest to him. However, she becomes deeply insecure, admitting Sakura was brave enough to confess and bake cookies, while she's a coward hiding behind a fake relationship. In the cold breeze, Yuki compares herself badly against Sakura and talks herself down. Toru notices her sadness and gently tells her she does not need to compare herself to Sakura or step aside just because of her. Yuki finally smiles genuinely, and Toru gently leads her inside. Meanwhile, Sengoku asks Remi why Sakura has been so happy lately. Remi smiles mysteriously, saying the truth is the opposite. Sengoku is just starting to understand when Sakura enters the student council room. She seems fine, but freezes seeing Toru smiling warmly with Yuki through the window. Sengoku asks what's wrong, and she tries to leave, but he stops her. Sakura finally breaks down, admitting she lost before she even began and was rejected without being asked anything. Angered on behalf of her friend, Sengoku declares that any boy who rejects her is mistaken and should be expelled from school. Impressed by his fierce defense, Sakura stops pretending to be happy and breaks down crying, regretting such a painful situation where no one is truly at fault. During lunch, Kyoko notices that only she and Yuki are siblings. However, Toru casually mentions that Shu also has a younger sister named Motoko, whom Toru met when he visited Shu's house. Toru explains that aside from their appearances, the siblings are completely different. Suddenly, Shu bursts into the room with his usual energy, holding a bird or coupon, and the girls scold him for not being like a big brother. Later in the student council room, everyone asks Akane why he still speaks so formally to them, despite their growing friendship. They point out that he's only casual with Yuki. Shu enthusiastically declares that he'll be the first to call Akane by his first name, which makes Kyoko a bit jealous of his confidence. Akane admits he struggles to drop formal speech, but wants to try. Then Sengoku enters, and Izumi and Toru immediately grab him, using him as an example of how quickly people can become so close that they start calling each other by their first names. Seeing this, Akane decides to start by calling Toru by his first name. Afraid of losing his friend, Izumi asks if Toru will do the same in return. When Toru says he might, Izumi quietly mutters that he'll add Akane to his list of disliked people, as he's secretly afraid of losing the friends he's finally found. Understanding the situation, Akane calmly assures Izumi he won't take Toru away from him. Izumi immediately panics and runs out, leaving everyone confused. A while later, Izumi and Akane involve Sakura in their debate over who is taller. Although Izumi is technically a centimeter taller, Sakura firmly stops them from arguing over such a small thing. Another day, Izumi introduces Honoka to his friends, hoping she'll be less afraid of boys. Honoka gradually calms down around Toru and Sengoku, who compete to win her attention with sweets. Suddenly, Shu bursts in, speaking loudly. Honoka immediately panics because she doesn't like loud people, which deeply hurts Shu. Moments later, Shu's throat becomes sore from yelling too much, and he develops a fever. Kyoko and Yuki scold him and tell him to go home before he gets everyone sick. Keeping quiet due to a sore throat, Shu notices Honoka struggling to lift a honey box. He quietly helps her and quickly leaves to avoid infecting her. The next day, fully recovered, Shu starts yelling again. Watching from a distance, Honoka tells Sakura she feels bad and wants to apologize because she's afraid Shu is mad at her. Sakura laughs and says Shu never gets mad. However, when Shu suddenly appears right in front of them, a panicked Honoka calls him annoying and runs away. At Shu's house, Motoko is deeply upset because her teacher mocked her grades, saying she isn't fit for her favorite school, East High. Seeing her sit disappointed on the couch, Shu sits beside her. When she talks about her teacher's mockery, Shu's usual demeanor disappears. He angrily demands she bring the teacher to their home so he can beat him for mocking his sister's hard work. Shaking, Motoko begins crying from the pressure of her falling grades. After calming down, Shu gently strokes her head and jokingly says East High's uniform isn't good anyway, suggesting she consider attending his school, Katagiri High. Determined to help, Shu asks Kyoko to teach Motoko. Kyoko immediately agrees and invites Motoko to her home. Upon arrival, Motoko meets Izumi and Soda and mistakenly believes they're Kyoko's brothers. Knowing Motoko is upset, Kyoko insists she have coffee before studying to calm down. During their talk, Motoko reveals her phone only has Shu's number, and she's afraid he'll get mad if she stays out too long. Kyoko laughs and says that despite their belief that the other hates them, the two clearly love each other deeply. Meanwhile, Shu takes Toru to a shrine to buy an expensive lucky charm for Motoko's exams. Toru reassures the worried Shu that Motoko will appreciate the effort, as he knows exactly how much the siblings love each other. With Christmas approaching, Soda begs Izumi to join their family dinner. Izumi can't promise, as he must help at his family's cake shop during holiday rush. Kyosuke also insists he come, making Kyoko wonder who Izumi is really dating. Meanwhile, Toru takes Shu and Sengoku out to discuss his complicated love life. Toru talks about his old feelings for Kyoko, his complex situation with Sakura, and his tangled, fake but close relationship with Yuki. Shu and Sengoku are stunned by the last part, as they truly believe Toru and Yuki were already dating. Shu bluntly asks Toru if he likes Yuki. Toru loudly admits he does, but finds it awkward to say it out loud. Surprisingly, Sengoku gives wise advice, telling Toru to stop worrying about others' opinions and focus on whether he's happy with what he shares with Yuki. During school break, Yuki asks to visit Toru's house again to finish a video game. Toru hesitates, but eventually agrees. When they arrive, Toru acts suspiciously and pulls Yuki inside like he's hiding her. He takes her to his room, closes the door, and loosens his tie. Yuki starts overthinking, assuming he's about to do something wrong, and panics, thinking he's hiding her from his parents. Seeing her panic, Toru opens the door so she doesn't feel trapped, though he doesn't understand her fear. Suddenly, Suddenly, an older woman tries to enter. Toru tries blocking her, but she comes in happily offering cake. Toru explains she's not his mother, but Yashiro, who works at their house and has been curious about Yuki ever since she first saw them together. Yashiro jokingly warns Toru that if he makes a wrong move, she'll tell his mother. Toru shrugs, saying he can't do anything anyway. When Toru gently strokes Yuki's head, Yuki is surprised, wondering if Toru would have tried something if Yashiro hadn't been there. Then Yashiro brings them cake from Izumi's shop, making the situation even more awkward. On the last day of school, Remy happily waits in the student council room and invites. Sengoku immediately panics and firmly declines. Izumi, Toru, and others get mad at him. Defending himself, Sengoku says he's terrified of bugs at Rimi's house. At home, Yuriko praises Kyoko's grades before mentioning the upcoming April graduation. Hearing this, Kyoko falls silent, feeling uncertain about her future. When Christmas arrives, everyone celebrates differently. Akane meets Yuki's older sister Miki. They talk about his contact lenses, and Akane offers her a pair as a Christmas gift, sparking a good friendship. Toru and Yuki go out, while Shu focuses on studying with Motoko and making dinner for her. Koichi spends time with Chika, who fears she might have to repeat a year, and Koichi reassures her that he'll stay with her. Makio stays home due to cold weather. At Kyoko's house, Kyosuke repeatedly asks if Izumi will come, though he knows Izumi is working. When Izumi finally arrives with cake, Kyosuke and Soda immediately cling to him, forcing him to stay for an hour. Seizing a moment alone, Kyoko insists on taking him back. As they walk quietly, Kyoko lags behind, lost in worry about the future. She admits that despite knowing little about him, she wants to be with him after graduation. Izumi stops, looks at her seriously, and says, maybe they should get married someday. Kyoko is utterly stunned. As Izumi turns to leave, she suddenly promises to keep him happy forever. Izumi says that's a typical guy thing to say, and they promise to stay together. Suddenly, Izumi's phone rings from the store, and he asks to leave in a hurry, leaving Kyoko cold but inwardly joyful and peaceful. For New Year's, they visit a shrine. Kyoko remarks how strange it is that he's the last person she saw last year and the first person she sees this year. Izumi hopes it happens every year. Holding hands, they walk home, and Kyoko asks if they'll always be together, to which Izumi promises they will. A few days before graduation, students are instructed to clear out their lockers. While Kyoko's locker is nearly empty, Yuki and Toru's lockers are full. Naturally, Toru and Yuki hand over their extra stuff to Kyoko. Shu arrives empty-handed, explaining he's already been taking his things home little by little. However, his friends suddenly remember they still have many DVDs they borrowed from him. When Shu jokingly says they'll need a strong person to carry everything, they immediately assume he's volunteering and pile everything on him. Meanwhile, in the student council room, Sakura is cleaning when Remy finds a travel magazine and suggests a group trip to the zoo after graduation. Sengoku and Akane enter, and Akane eagerly joins the plans, mentioning his goal of getting a driver's license for the trip. Suddenly, Remy becomes silent and tries to leave. Seeing this, Sakura stops her, pulls her cheek, and asks what's wrong. Remy admits she's afraid that once they start talking about licenses and trips, everyone will drift apart and never return. Sakura gently reassures her that graduation doesn't mean the end of their bond, and they'll always be close. Akane promises to take everyone on a group trip once he gets his license. Meanwhile, Kyoko and Izumi are alone at her house. As Kyoko sleeps with her head in his lap, Izumi drifts into thought and begins imagining a strange scenario. He envisions a situation where he never brought the injured Soda home that day. He wonders if Toru and Yuki would ever grow close, if Toru would only stay with Shu, if Sengoku and Remy would ever meet, or if Sakura would like Toru. Most of all, he thinks about himself and realizes he would have ended high school just as he started. A lonely man, always running and never speaking to Kyoko. However, he quickly shakes off these thoughts, feeling genuinely happy about the series of events that led him here. Kyoko wakes up and asks what he's thinking. When he tells her about his thought, Kyoko sits up, leans against his chest, and gently reassures him that everything happened exactly as it was meant to. Even if he missed an opportunity, everything would have still worked out perfectly. Graduation day finally arrives. As student council president, Sengoku steps up to give the formal speech and feel confident. However, seeing Izumi in the crowd distracts him. Izumi sneezes loudly, completely breaking the serious silence, and a flustered Sengoku gives a terrible speech. Afterwards, an angry Sengoku chases Izumi, who escapes to the quiet rooftop. Standing alone, Izumi reflects on the lonely version of himself. Instead of running, he finally accepts his past, acknowledges himself, and feels the peace and warmth he's found now. His thoughts are interrupted when a classmate calls him downstairs for group photos. The school grounds are filled with noise and emotion. A desperate Honoka refuses to believe that Kyoko is leaving until Kyoko promises to let her visit. Toru and Sakura share a heartfelt conversation. Sakura sincerely thanks him, calling it the best year of her life, and promises to always remember him and Yuki. Toru assures her he won't forget either. Nearby, Yuki listens quietly and realizes Then Akane approaches Yuki to confirm their upcoming holiday plans, and she immediately agrees, knowing they'll be together as a group. Suddenly, Kyosuke arrives. His resemblance causes classmates to mistakenly believe he's Izumi's father. When Kyoko angrily scolds him for his casual behavior, Izumi happily takes photos with him. Izumi's biological parents arrive briefly. Outside the school gate, Shu meets Motoko, who proudly announces she's been accepted to Katagiri High. Finally, Kyoko and Izumi walk home together. Izumi thinks that he's finally close to someone with no distance between them. While he used to fear that closeness, now he only wants to protect Kyoko's smile and the happy days that come with it. Knowing he's found freedom, peace, and purpose, Izumi decides to stay with her forever.